Have you ever felt like the world is moving forward without you, leaving you behind in silence and solitude? You try to connect with others, but the bonds seem to break, and the quiet feels overwhelming. It's as if Allah is pulling you away from everyone and everything, but why would He do that? My dear brothers and sisters, this isolation isn't a punishment, it's preparation. Allah isolates those He chooses to protect, refine, and guide towards something far greater than they can imagine. Today, let's explore 7 powerful reasons why Allah might isolate the chosen ones. These reasons are filled with wisdom that we often overlook in the midst of our pain. Before we begin, reflect on this. What if your loneliness is Allah's way of bringing you closer to Him, away from the distractions of the world? Let's uncover the wisdom behind this isolation and discover how it might be the greatest blessing in your life. Reason number 1: protecting your heart. Have you ever noticed how easily your heart gets distracted when you're constantly surrounded by people? Conversations, comparisons, and worldly influences can slowly pull you away from the purity of your connection with Allah. Allah may distance you from others, not to punish you, but to safeguard your heart. Think of a precious gem, something so valuable and delicate. To preserve its beauty, you protect it from anything that could scratch or dull its shine. That's your heart. Allah knows its worth and wants to shield it from anything that could harm it. Perhaps you've been around friends or colleagues who subtly mock your faith or encourage you to stray from it. You may not realize it at first, but small compromises begin to creep in. Suddenly, Allah removes those people from your life. It feels painful and confusing. But what if this was His way of protecting your soul? In hindsight, you might see that this distance was Allah's mercy, a chance to purify your heart and realign it solely with Him. Remember the words of the Qur'an: "So do not weaken and do not grieve, and you will be superior if you are true believers." Qur'an 3:139. This loneliness you feel is not emptiness. It's an opportunity, a space for Allah to fill your heart with His love, His guidance, and His peace. Trust in the process, for isolation may just be the first step to transforming your heart and life. Reason number 2: isolation to refine your character. Have you ever experienced those moments when, as you focus more on improving yourself, the noise and chaos of the world around you seem to fade away? It's as if, in these quiet moments, Allah is deliberately removing distractions, the constant opinions of others, the meaningless chatter, and even those people whose paths no longer align with yours. But why does this happen? Why does Allah sometimes lead you into isolation? The answer lies in the fact that isolation is not a punishment. It's Allah's way of refining you. It's a process through which He purifies your soul and strengthens your character, preparing you for something greater. Think about it for a moment. When you're constantly surrounded by noise, whether it's the loud opinions of others, toxic relationships, or distractions that pull you away from your purpose, it becomes almost impossible to hear your own inner voice, let alone connect deeply with Allah. Now imagine this. You're in a room filled with noise, people talking, distractions everywhere, thoughts running wild. How could you possibly focus on what truly matters in that moment? How could you hear the quiet whispers of your soul or the gentle guidance of Allah? That's what isolation does. It removes the distractions. It clears the noise. It forces you to confront the truth about yourself, who you really are, what you truly value, and where your heart really lies. Have you ever experienced this in your own life? Those quiet, uncomfortable moments of solitude where you are faced with parts of yourself you didn't want to see. Maybe it's an old habit you've been avoiding or a weakness you've been hiding. You've pushed these things aside for so long, but in the stillness they suddenly come to the surface. This is the moment where Allah isolates you, not to punish you, but to help you grow. He's not leaving you alone. He's creating space for you to confront these parts of yourself so that you can heal and become better. This isolation is part of His divine plan to shape you into someone stronger, wiser, and more connected to Him. Think back to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, the greatest of all humans. He often withdrew to the cave of Hira before receiving the revelation. These moments of solitude weren't just about being physically alone. They were a time of spiritual preparation. Allah used those quiet moments to purify and prepare His messenger for the immense task ahead. In the same way, your moments of isolation may be Allah's way of preparing you for something greater, something beyond your understanding right now. It may not make sense in the moment, and you may even feel lost or confused, but trust that Allah has a purpose for this period of solitude. But let's be honest for a moment, it's not easy. It can feel like a heavy burden. You may wonder why people who were once close to you are now distant. You may feel hurt, rejected, or abandoned. But here's the truth. Not everyone is meant to walk with you on this journey. Some people are only meant to be with you for a season. They come into your life to teach you something, maybe a lesson in patience, forgiveness, or understanding, and then they leave as part of Allah's plan for you. And that's okay. You don't have to hold on to everyone who walks away. Trust that those who are meant to stay will stay, and those who are meant to leave will leave, each fulfilling a part of Allah's plan. Remember this. The discomfort of solitude is temporary, but the clarity, strength, and wisdom it brings can last a lifetime. When you are alone, you are forced to rely on Allah, and in doing so you discover a deeper, more profound connection with your Creator. It is in this stillness that you learn to depend on Allah fully, without relying on anyone or anything else. You realize that your true worth is not found in the approval of others or in the company of friends. It is found in your relationship with Allah. So, the next time you find yourself in a season of isolation, take a moment to reflect. Ask yourself, could this isolation be Allah's way of refining you, preparing you, and drawing you closer to Him? Isolation is not a sign that you are being abandoned or forgotten. It is a sign that Allah is molding you, shaping you, and getting you ready for something far greater than you can see right now. Trust in His wisdom and know that this is a gift, a chance for growth, a chance for transformation. In these moments of solitude, you are not alone. Allah is with you, guiding you, refining you, and preparing you for the greatness He has planned for you. So embrace the process, trust in Allah's plan, and know that this isolation is leading you towards something extraordinary. Reason 3. Isolation strengthens your relationship with Allah. Have you ever felt like no one really understands what you're going through? Like no matter how much you try to explain, no one gets it? That feeling isn't by chance. It's actually a call from Allah. When Allah isolates you, it's His way of bringing you closer to Him. Think about it. When life is easy, we tend to rely on people, our friends, family, or even material things. But in isolation, when those things aren't there, you're left with the one who has always been with you, Allah. Let me ask you, how many times have you turned to Allah with all your heart, tears in your eyes, only when you felt like there was no one else to turn to? Isolation makes you depend on Allah in a way nothing else can. It's like Allah is saying, come to me. Let me be enough for you. But here's something important. This isn't about separating from the Ummah. Islam is about unity, and the strength of the community is in the bond we share as believers. What we're talking about here is a spiritual journey, one that transforms you, helping you contribute to the community in a stronger, more meaningful way. Look at the life of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He faced deep loneliness, whether in the cave of Hira, on the battlefields, or during the hardships in Makkah. Yet those moments weren't about being alone, they were times of preparation. Through those challenges, he became the leader who united the Ummah under the banner of La ilaha illallah. Your isolation is no different. It's not about cutting yourself off permanently. It's about taking a step back to reconnect with Allah, recharge, and realign. When you come back to the community, you do so with a renewed purpose, stronger than before. So, if you're feeling alone right now, remember this. It's not about being distant. It's about strengthening your foundation. When your foundation is strong, you can unite and uplift others even more effectively. Reason 4. Isolation is a training ground. Have you ever noticed how just when you're about to grow, something or someone is taken from your life? Maybe it's a friendship you thought would never end, or a support system you've depended on for years, and then suddenly, it's gone. Have you ever stopped to ask why? Isolation isn't rejection, it's refinement. Allah removes distractions and attachments that might get in the way of your growth. It's His way of focusing your attention and teaching you lessons you wouldn't learn in comfort. Think about Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam. When he was thrown into the well, he was isolated, separated from his family's support. But that isolation wasn't abandonment, it was preparation. In the quiet of that well and later in prison, Yusuf alayhi salam was being shaped into a leader. When he emerged, he wasn't just a man, he was a man with deep wisdom, resilience, and faith. Here's something to reflect on. What if the struggles you're facing now are your training ground? What if Allah is preparing you for something much greater than what you can see right now? Let's be honest, it hurts. Losing people, facing silence, and feeling forgotten can make you question your worth. But remember this, diamonds are made under pressure, and the finest swords are shaped in fire. The challenges you face in isolation are the very things Allah uses to refine you into a better version of yourself. Don't rush to fill the silence. Don't try to hold on to connections that Allah has chosen to remove. Instead, use this time to look within and turn to Allah. Ask yourself, what is Allah teaching me through this? When you shift your perspective, isolation goes from feeling like punishment to becoming a gift. When you emerge from this phase, you'll realize something important. The solitude wasn't meant to break you, it was meant to build you. Reason 5. Allah's plan requires patience. Have you ever felt like your life is stuck, like you're watching others move forward while you stand still? It can be frustrating, right? But here's something important. Allah's delay is not His denial. Sometimes Allah puts you in a waiting phase because He's preparing something far better for you. That waiting time isn't wasted. It's necessary for your growth. Think of it like a cocoon. A caterpillar must stay still before it becomes a butterfly. Similarly, your time of isolation is a time of change and growth. Prophet Musa alayhi salam went through this too. Before leading his people, he spent years in the wilderness, far from Egypt, caring for sheep. To many, this might have seemed like a setback, but it was exactly what he needed to prepare for the leadership Allah had planned for him. Here's something to think about. What if this waiting period is where Allah is doing His most important work in your life? What if it's the time He's using to strengthen your faith, sharpen your skills, and remove distractions that would hold you back? Patience doesn't mean doing nothing. It means trusting Allah's perfect timing. Use this time to grow, spiritually, mentally, and emotionally, so when the time is right, you're ready for the blessings Allah has in store for you. Remember, Allah knows the best time for everything. What might feel like a delay is actually part of His plan. The wait isn't punishment, it's preparation. Reason 6. Isolation refines your intentions. Being alone can be tough. The silence and loneliness can make you question everything around you, but here's a powerful truth. Isolation is where your intentions become clearer. When you're around others, their opinions and expectations can cloud your heart. You may start doing things just to please them without even realizing it. When Allah puts you in isolation, it's a chance to reflect and ask yourself, Why am I doing this? Is it for people, or is it solely for Allah? Think about Prophet Ibrahim, alayhi salam. When he was separated from his people for staying true to his faith in Allah, his solitude became the source of his strength. He wasn't trying to impress anyone. He was focused on earning Allah's pleasure. His isolation wasn't punishment. It was a blessing that allowed his faith to grow strong. Isn't that how it is with us too? How often do we get caught up in meeting the world's expectations? How often do we let others' opinions shape how we see ourselves? In isolation, Allah gives us the opportunity to break free from these distractions. Here's a question. If no one was watching, would you still pray with the same devotion? Would you still give charity? Would you still work on bettering yourself? Isolation shows your true intentions. It removes the noise and leaves you face to face with your own sincerity. Reason 7. Isolation prepares you for your unique role. When Allah isolates you, it's for a reason. He's preparing you for a mission only you can carry out. The loneliness and silence are tools in His plan to create something extraordinary within you. Consider the story of Prophet Yusuf, alayhi salam. He was thrown into a well by his brothers, sold into slavery and imprisoned unfairly. His time in isolation wasn't random. Every moment of solitude was a step toward his destiny, to become a leader who would save nations from famine. His separation from the world wasn't a punishment, it was training for greatness.